All right, so have you heard of this book, The Blue Umbrella?
By Ruskin Bond.
Yeah, Ruskin Bond, exactly.
Yeah.
So we're doing a deep dive on it today.
It's a novella, so,
Yeah, it's not like a huge commitment.
not a massive one, but
Right.
still worth considering. Is it worth your time?
Yeah, is it worth it?
Exactly, and that's what we're going to figure out.
By the end, you'll know.
You will know.
Should you read this or not?
Yeah, so we'll get into like the writing style and the themes and then
Okay.
how it compares to other books you might have read
Perfect.
to help you decide.
Now, one thing that I am curious about is that it's categorized as children's literature a lot of times.
Right.
So as an adult, am I going to find it too simplistic
That's a fair question.
or preachy?
Yeah, and that's really, I think, where Ruskin Bond's skill shines,
Okay.
because he takes this very simple premise.
Okay.
Young girl gets a blue umbrella,
Right.
and from that he explores all these complex emotions like envy and greed and generosity. So it's not like hitting you over the head with the moral.
Right.
It's more like, let's observe how these things play out in a very human way.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm intrigued, but the plot does sound a little uneventful to me.
Okay.
Like, girl gets umbrella, people are jealous, the end.
Right.
Like, is there really enough there to hold my attention?
Yeah, so I think there's more to it than meets the eye.
Okay.
One thing is that it's set in the Garhwal Himalayas.
Okay.
And Ruskin Bond's descriptions are so evocative, you can practically smell the pine needles and feel the mountain breeze.
Wow.
It really sets the scene.
Yeah.
And within this idyllic setting, that's when the human drama unfolds.
Okay.
So, for example, there's this shopkeeper, Rambarosa,
Okay.
who becomes obsessed with Binya's umbrella.
Oh, wow.
And it's not even that he just wants an umbrella.
Yeah.
It becomes this symbol of everything he feels he lacks in life.
So it's kind of representing something bigger.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like Gatsby
Oh.
and his yearning for Daisy, which is really this yearning for a lost past and a sense of belonging.
Okay.
So the umbrella becomes this symbol of joy, status, even innocence.
Okay.
And that's why it's so coveted.
That's a really interesting comparison.
Yeah.
I see how that would make it more interesting.
Yeah.
But what about the writing itself?
Okay.
You mentioned evocative descriptions.
Yeah.
But is it too childish
Not at all.
or simplistic?
I think that's where Bond's brilliance really lies, is this ability to convey these complex emotions with very simple and elegant prose.
Okay.
So, like, for example, he describes the umbrella,
Okay.
and he says, it was like a flower, a great blue flower that had sprung up on the dry, brown hillside.
Wow.
So it's this childlike observation, yes.
Yeah.
But it also kind of speaks to how beauty can appear in ordinary places.
Yeah.
And how that beauty can spark both joy and longing.
Okay. You're really painting this picture for me.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see this in a whole new light.
Good.
I'm starting to understand why people have liked this book for so long.
Yeah. And it's a novella.
Right.
So it's a quick read.
Yes.
It's immersive.
Yeah.
Offers a surprising amount of depth.
Okay.
Even if you think you know what's coming,
Right.
he draws you into the characters' lives.
Okay.
And you really feel invested.
So we've got engaging characters.
Yeah.
We've got this symbolic object
Right.
driving the plot, beautiful writing.
Yes.
But is it all a bit too gentle?
Okay.
You know, I do like stories that challenge me, that make me think about the darker sides of human nature.
Yeah,
Does this book offer that?
it does.
Okay.
While the tone is gentle, he doesn't shy away from those darker impulses that drive these characters.
Okay.
So, for example, Rambarosa.
Yeah.
His envy leads him to make some pretty questionable choices.
Like what?
Well, he even tries to steal the umbrella.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but the story doesn't just condemn him.
Okay.
It explores the root of that desire and shows how even flawed characters can change.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's reassuring.
Yeah.
I like when a story acknowledges that complexity.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that sets The Blue Umbrella apart from other children's books that might deal with similar themes.
Okay.
It offers this more nuanced perspective. It
Yeah.
invites you to empathize, even with the less likable characters.
Yeah. Are there any other books that this reminds you of?
You know, it's funny you should mention that because it often makes me think of The Gift of the Magi
Okay.
by O. Henry.
Right.
And they both explore these themes of generosity and sacrifice
Yeah.
in very different settings and styles, obviously.
Right.
But I think The Gift of the Magi is set in a bustling city,
Right.
has this more sentimental tone, but
yeah.
they both offer these profound insights into giving
Yeah.
and the surprising ways that possessions can connect us.
Interesting.
Yeah. And just like that Gift of the Magi, you get this powerful emotional punch in a really short story.
Yeah.
It really lingers with you.
Okay, you've definitely piqued my curiosity. I'm starting to see now how this seemingly simple story can have so much depth.
Right.
Um, but let's talk about Binya for a second.
Yeah.
You mentioned that she's like this strong, compassionate character.
Right.
Can you give me an example of that?
Sure. So there's this scene where she's walking home through the forest and her precious umbrella falls into this deep chasm.
Oh, no.
And now most kids would be devastated,
Yeah,
give up hope,
totally.
but not Binya.
Oh.
She's determined to get it back.
All right.
She finds this sturdy vine, lowers herself down into the chasm,
Wow.
and retrieves the umbrella.
That's so brave.
Yeah, risking her own safety to save this thing that she cherishes.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing for a young girl.
Right.
It really goes against that stereotype of like a passive, helpless child.
Exactly. And Bond really portrays her as resourceful, resilient, and deeply connected to the natural world.
Okay.
She's not afraid to take risks, and her actions often defy expectations.
That's really cool. I like that.
Yeah,
So it sounds like she's a character you can really root for.
definitely.
But how does that bravery tie into the themes of the story?
I think her courage isn't just about physical daring, it's also about emotional resilience.
Right.
And standing up for what she believes in.
Okay.
Remember, she's facing all this pressure
Yeah.
from other people who want to take her umbrella away, but she never wavers in her belief that it's hers and that it brings her joy.
So her attachment to this umbrella is about more than just the object.
Right.
It's representing something deeper.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where the theme of innocence comes in.
Okay.
Her pure joy in this umbrella contrasts with the envy and greed that it stirs in other people.
Right.
And it highlights how societal pressures can taint our perception and lead us astray from these simpler pleasures.
It makes me think about how, as adults, we kind of lose sight of that
Exactly.
childlike wonder.
Yeah, and that's what I find so powerful about this book is that it reminds us that sometimes true happiness is just appreciating the beauty of the present moment.
Yeah.
Rather than constantly striving for more.
I like that.
Yeah.
So it's not just a children's story. It's like a story for everybody.
Absolutely. And it does so in this very graceful and subtle way.
Right.
Bond never spells things out for you.
Yeah.
He trusts you to draw your own conclusions and make your own connections.
He trusts the reader.
Yeah, that's a skilled storyteller.
Yeah, I agree. And while the book's simplicity is often cited as a strength,
Right.
it's important to recognize that it's deceptive.
Right.
There's a lot of nuance and complexity underneath.
There is, yeah.
As we're talking, I keep thinking about other books that have captured that childlike wonder.
Yeah.
You've ever read The Little Prince?
Of course, classic
Yeah.
for a reason.
Yeah, and I think there are some parallels there
Definitely.
with The Blue Umbrella.
Yeah.
They both explore the power of imagination and that importance of seeing the world with fresh eyes.
Yeah, and that beauty of these simple truths that we often miss as adults.
And like The Blue Umbrella, The Little Prince manages to be heartwarming, but also thought-provoking.
Yes.
It stays with you.
It does, and that's what makes these stories so enduring.
Yeah.
They tap into something so fundamental about being human.
I agree. We've been talking a lot about the themes,
Yeah.
the characters.
Right.
I'm also curious about the ending.
Okay.
Without giving too much away,
Right.
can you tell us if it's satisfying?
I don't want to spoil anything,
Of course.
but I can say that it's both heartwarming and hopeful.
Right.
Bond manages to tie up all the loose ends
Yeah.
and leave you with this feeling of peace and closure.
I like that I'm always wary of stories that leave me feeling unresolved.
I understand, but you can rest assured this one offers a sense of completion.
Okay.
It comes full circle
Good.
and returns to those themes of generosity and compassion.
Okay, good. That's reassuring.
Yeah.
It makes me even more eager to read it myself.
Good.
But before we get to the final recommendations,
Okay.
I have one more question. We talked about how The Blue Umbrella offers this nuanced perspective on human behavior.
Right.
But does it ever get too sentimental
That's a great question.
or melodramatic?
And I think a lot of readers might have that question. It's a fine line to walk.
Right.
But I think he avoids it.
Okay.
His writing is always grounded in realism,
Okay.
even when he's dealing with these heightened emotions.
Right.
He never shies away from the complexities
Yeah.
of human relationships, but he also never loses sight of the inherent goodness.
Okay.
That's in even the most flawed characters.
That's a hard balance to achieve.
It is.
But it sounds like he does.
Yeah, I think he pulls it off, and I think that's what makes this book so special.
Okay.
It touches the heart without being saccharine or manipulative.
I like that you've really made me want to read this book.
Good.
You've highlighted the beautiful writing, the engaging characters, the thought-provoking themes.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up, I want to hear your final recommendations for our listeners. Who do you think would most enjoy this?
I think The Blue Umbrella has something for readers of all ages,
Okay.
but it'll especially connect with people who appreciate character-driven stories, lyrical prose, and tales that explore those complexities of human nature within this simple framework.
So if someone was looking for like a fast-paced thriller or a complex mystery,
Right.
maybe not the right choice.
Maybe not. This is a book that invites you to slow down,
Okay.
savor the language,
Yeah.
and reflect. It rewards a contemplative reading experience.
I appreciate that honesty because it helps our listeners know what they're getting into
Of course.
before they start reading.
Exactly. And while The Blue Umbrella might not be for everyone,
Right.
I do believe that those who are drawn to its unique blend of simplicity, beauty, and emotional depth will find it to be a really rewarding read.
Okay. Yeah, I love how you describe it as a book that like invites you to slow down.
Yeah.
You know, like, in today's world, it's so rare to find a story that encourages us to do that.
Oh.
Just to pause and like savor the moment.
Yeah.
It sounds like this is a really nice break from all the craziness.
It is. It really is. And I think that's one of the reasons it continues to resonate with people.
Yeah.
There's something timeless about that message.
Yeah.
Of finding joy in simple things and recognizing the power of connection.
Absolutely. You've given us so much to think about.
Good.
And I know our listeners are probably ready to go out and read this book now.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up, I want to pose one final question to you and our listeners.
Okay.
We've talked about Binya's attachment to her blue umbrella.
Right.
But what object holds a similar significance for you?
Oh, wow.
Is there something you cherish, something that sparks joy and reminds you of simpler times?
Oh, that's such a great question.
Yeah.
It's making me think about all the objects that have held meaning over the years, like a worn-out teddy bear, or a seashell I picked up on a beach, or a letter from someone I love.
Oh.
You know, it's amazing how these objects can hold so much emotional weight for us.
Totally. They become part of our story.
They do. They become part of our story, and they shape our memories.
I completely agree. Sometimes the most like ordinary things can become so significant.
Yes.
Because they remind us of the people we love and the experiences that have shaped us.
Exactly. And maybe that's one of the things the Blue Umbrella is trying to tell us.
Okay.
That true value isn't about the thing itself,
Yeah.
but the memories and emotions it evokes.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that. And it gives our listeners something to think about as they start reading.
I hope so.
Well, I think that's it.
Yeah.
We've reached the end of our deep dive.
I think so.
Thank you so much for joining us on this exploration of The Blue Umbrella.
Yes, thank you.
We hope you enjoyed it
It's been fun.
and that you learned something.
Yeah, and that you'll check out the book.
Yes, and to our listeners, remember, reading is a journey, not a destination.
Very true.
So take your time, savor the experience, and let The Blue Umbrella transport you to a world of beauty, simplicity, and human connection.
I love that.
Until next time, happy reading.
Bye.